Hi everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. Got a new article here from Vice Media. I know it's FUD. It's basically saying Palantir demos AI to fight wars, but says it will be totally ethical. Don't worry about it. You know they're trying to be sarcastic in this title, but I do want to make a commentary or opinion on this while we go through this, just so other Palantir investors can get a different perspective and not take this at face value. So we'll just go through this together. The company says its artificial intelligence platform will integrate AI into military decision-making in a legal and ethical way. So based on the title though, we already know they're trying to be a little bit sarcastic here. So of course we start with the introduction. Palantir, the company founded by billionaire Peter Thiel. So they do want to bring this up. It's always important for Vice Media to know exactly why they want to make sure they frame Palantir in this light as being controlled and being run by Peter Thiel like day to day, right? And that he bestows his values upon this as if it's his little mice that he does for his bidding and tries to push his agenda on. We know that's not the case, but it's a way to start the article and set up readers to get this frame of reference in their mind as if that's the reality. So just continuing on here, software meant to run large language models like GPT-4 or alternative on private networks. In one of its pitched videos, Palantir demos how a military might use AIP to fight a war. So this video actually came out just yesterday, but the day before we did have an AIP demo for the commercial use. But obviously they're going to pick on the one with the military use, and they're going to use different examples to try to pick at it. So in the video, the operator uses a ChatGPT style of chat robot to order drone reconnaissance, generate several plans of attack, and organize the jamming of enemy communications. So yeah, they're just going over what the example was used for, and this honestly is basically a real life example that you would not be surprised to see in a battlefield and used for artificial intelligence. And they do go on to continue the example in the video. Military operator responsible for monitoring activity within Eastern Europe receives an alert from AIP that an enemy is amassing military equipment near friendly forces. The operator then asks the chatbot to show them more details, gets a little more info, and then asks the AI to guess what the units might be. So why am I going into this much detail here? You're gonna see why shortly. They wanna frame the way that this video is portraying the example as if AI can run out of hand. And I did have a sneak peek, of course, of what happens later on, but we'll keep going. They ask what enemy units are in the region and leverage AI to build out a likely unit formation, the video said. After getting the AI's best guess as to what's going on, the operator then asks the AI to take better pictures. It launches a Reaper MQ-9 drone to take photos, and the operator discovers that there's a T-80 tank, Soviet-era Russia vehicle near friendly forces. Then the operator asks the robots what to do about it. The operator uses AIP to generate 3 possible courses of action to target this enemy equipment, the video said. Next, they use AIP to automatically send these options up the chain of command. The options include attacking the tank with an F-16, long-range artillery, or Javelin missiles. According to the video, the AI will even let everyone know if nearby troops have enough javelins to conduct the mission and automate the jamming systems. Incredibly dangerous and weird, while there is a human in the loop in the AIP demo. They seem to do little more than ask the chatbot what to do and then approve its actions. So let's take this example that they said here. They're saying and framing it that the person working is not really doing anything and acting like a bot themselves. They're just asking questions or maybe following a script per se, like a computer would. They're just saying that the person doesn't really have any experience. They're not using any of their own intuition or creativity or anything that is humanesque about it, and rather they're just asking questions, and then whatever LLM is in the background is just providing the answer to them. I think this is a really big disservice to, I guess, any operator. I'm not in the military, I don't have any military experience, but even just say if you were a worker at a corporation, you're kind of doing a disservice here that all they're doing is asking questions, right? People have intuition. People know these things, especially when they've worked in an industry for so long and have experience. Like, for example, this operator here, they were presented those 3 choices. And they have things in here that are not necessarily quantifiable, or maybe that they want to ensure that the computer is taking into account. So if they've been on the field before, they have that experience that not necessarily a computer can absorb, right? Yes, you can get sound data, you can get weather data, all those things. But being on the field and having that experience and then sitting behind a screen, it's something that a computer can't necessarily replicate, and I believe is important. A very big disservice here that Vice is trying to make it seem as if it's just a person asking questions, and then they're just going to go with whatever the flow is. So just a huge rant there, but let's keep going. So drone warfare now has already abstracted warfare. So they're just trying to say it's disconnected people from the violence, making it easier for people to kill vast distances with the push of a button. This actually was something that happened during I believe the Iraq War, the first one in the early 90s. They were sharing satellite images of throwing bombs essentially, and there were operators there who were making these decisions to do so, and they gamified the concept of war. I mean, humanitarily, yes, we can say that this really disconnects people and then kind of allows them to make more logical decisions with less emotional ones. I'm not going to say that's good or bad, but that's kind of what it does in the name of war. And if you're trying to control people to do those kind of actions, it does make sense to gamify it in that way and disconnect them from the humanitarian part. I mean, I don't have the experience, so I wouldn't know, and I can't speak for everyone, but just to say that people are not in touch with their human side and that they just completely look at it as a video game, I don't think that's necessarily a normal person either. So let's just keep going. The consequences of those systems are well documented. In Palantir's vision of the military's future, more systems would be automated and abstracted. A funny quirk of the video is that it calls its users operators, a term that in a military context is shorthand for bearded special forces groups like SEAL Team 6. In Palantir's world, America's elite forces share the same nickname as the keyboard cowboys asking a robot what to do about a Russian tank at the border. Yes, it is different, right? Being on the field and being behind the computer. But who's to say, right? What if you were on the field and now you're behind the computer? Wouldn't you say you're more equipped to do so? I mean, again, it really sounds like there's a lot of wide-ranging assumptions here. They could be right? Even in a smaller context. But to say that these people behind the computers don't have experience with these things and these people are making decisions as if they were keyboard cowboys, yeah, I don't think that's really a good way to approach this. Palantir also isn't selling a military-specific AI or large language model, LLM here. It's offering to integrate existing systems into a controlled environment. The AIP demo shows that software supporting different open source LLMs, including Flan T5XL, a fine-tuned version of GPT Neo X 20B, and DALL-E V2 12B, as well as several custom plugins. Even fine-tuned AI systems off the shelf have plenty of known issues that can make asking them what to do in a war zone a nightmare. For example, they're prone to simply making things up or hallucinating. GPT Neo X 20B in particular is an open source alternative to GPT-3, a previous version of OpenAI's language model created by a startup called Elithral, I'm not sure how to say that, AI, one of Elithral AI's open source models, fine-tuned by another startup called Chai, recently convinced a Belgian man who spoke to it for 6 weeks to kill himself. Now, okay, for someone who's researched a lot of Palantir, we already know where this is going. They're just trying to tie that Palantir isn't selling an LLM, right? They're just selling the infrastructure. Therefore, the LLMs in those can be flawed. They're tying the unfortunate case of this Belgian man to these LLMs. Obviously, this is not a very simple thing where you could just say, because of the LLM, this man did this action. No, not necessarily, but you could say there was some positive reinforcement possibly that happened due to that. And yes, we know LLMs can have issues. You know, it can just be incomplete data. It could be the way that there's certain variables tuned to have more or less weight. However, for Palantir, we know that they're trying to provide the infrastructure for this to allow you to fine tune these LLMs over time. We already know this as the public, that these are not perfect. Just as simple as using ChatGPT or something that produces images, right? A computer's not going to get it right all the time, especially as you get closer and closer to areas of creativity and areas where, you know, there isn't really hard data for them to do that, right? If you ask a computer quantitatively, what is this? And they'll know what it is, right? Now, if you're telling them to project out, they may have good projections considering they'll have more data than a human can take into account. Now, if you have something where a human and a computer both have little to no data, or it's something creative, it's really up to the interpretation of that mechanism, right? So as a person, you can really take your biases and your experience and create something. Or if you're a computer, you literally kind of have to guess sometimes, or take the very little info that is pertinent or at least slightly related and then try to make something of it. And as a human, of course, we see that output and be like, oh my God, this is not related at all. But what do you expect? So And this was also talked about by Alex Karp, that LLMs are kind of going to become commodities, right? Everyone is producing their large language models. Everyone is producing all these different things. But what is the mechanism to control this? And then what is the mechanism to ensure that you can improve it over time with a good track record, and then seeing what different users with different accesses can do with it? Exactly here. So they're really trying to tie here, and I know it's a large rant on this, but they're really just trying to tie the lack of infrastructure, which there is infrastructure for Palantir, and then they're saying that these LLMs are flawed, so we shouldn't use them because it's going to cause people to do these things that are harmful to themselves. That is a really big jump to make, and you know that this being tied together to create a framework that is negative. What Palantir is offering is the illusion of safety and control for the Pentagon as it begins to adopt AI. LLMs and algorithms must be controlled in this highly regulated and sensitive context to ensure that they are used in a legal and ethical way, the pitch said. I mean, we already know this is not going to be perfect, but what's the best way that you can control something to ensure that people kind of act with ethics when they're being watched? Yeah, that's basically what you can do. But even though they're being watched, people will still do things that they shouldn't do. And, you know, if you don't have a overseeing system, yeah, that's actually going to happen more often, and you're not going to be able to track when things go wrong, who did it, where they did it, why they did it, all that stuff. At least if you're tracking it, you're able to see when that happens and figure it out, and then try to, at least for the future and your next iteration, try to do a better job at ensuring people follow the rules, or people have no way that shouldn't have access to that for certain levels or certain positions, things of that nature. It really sounds like they're saying don't have a system at all, and then that's going to solve the issue. That is not the way to go, especially when your adversaries are going to do this in the way that they're going to have no controls over it, or their controls are going to be something that favors them rather than yourself. I'm not trying to akin this to an arms race, but it kind of is. When someone's producing nukes on your end, you can tell them as much as possible that we should not make nukes. But in the end, they're going to keep doing it. So what are you going to do? You have to at least defend yourself. All right, let's keep going here. According to Palantir, this control involves 3 pillars. The first claim is that AIP will be able to deploy these systems into classified networks and devices on the tactical edge. It claims it will be able to parse both classified and real-time data in a responsible, legal, and ethical way. According to the video, users will then have control over that every LLM and AI in the Palantir-backed system can do. AIP security feature, what LLMs and AI can do and cannot see what they can and cannot do. The video said, as operators take action, AIP generates a secure digital record of operations. These capabilities are crucial for mitigating significant legal, regulatory, and ethical risks in sensitive and classified settings. Half of these videos is a use case for the AI and military. The other half is a view of the system's backend. It's a tour of the guardrails AIP will supposedly set up around these LLMs to make them safe and control who has access to what kind of information. What AIP does not do is walk through how it plans to deal with the various pernicious problems of LLMs and what the consequences might be in a military context. AIP does not appear to offer solutions to those problems beyond frameworks and guardrails it promises will make the use of military AI ethical and legal. Yeah, they really do just continue on this argument that the best way to go about AI for the military is to not have any framework or not have any progress or not have any LLMs. It really sounds like, I mean, yes, you're going to have the doomsdayers say that AI is going to hide itself. It's going to take control on its own without human interactions. I mean, I'm not an AI scientist, but just from what at least the large population is saying right now, we're not at that point technologically yet. However, it really sounds like what they're saying is we don't like this because it's a product for the military. That's really what it comes down to in this article. And like they're saying, they're not offering solutions to those problems beyond frameworks. Well, first of all, this is a demo for the AIP product. So this is to entice customers, not necessarily to go full on and expose how it's working on the back end right now, right? Think of these conversations that you're gonna have with a client that's very interested in a product versus sending out a mass video for everyone to at least get enticed about it. You can't get into that in a practical way, and you know this, Vice. You're journalism, right? So you understand that you can't just give everyone the full article. You need them to have enticement with different pictures and different titles in order for them to dive deeper into the article. So it's the same thing here, a very large, complicated product that costs millions per year and can be, life or death situations. Are you gonna go over into every single little thing in the demo that's to pull them in and just show how the product works at a high level? Not necessarily, right? Yeah, so it's just funny that they're poking at these guardrails as if everyone is doing this already with their LLMs, and then they're making sure that they're controlling these things. At least Palantir is putting effort into doing that, having a documented case for everything, being able to tie things to certain users and certain data sources, and ensuring that it's not a free-for-all. It sounds like, yes, we don't know technically, right, how these guardrails are working on the back end. I've mentioned that in my first reaction video to the AIP platform, but it's a demo to entice people to learn more about it, especially those who are interested and actually can implement it and afford the product. So I'm not expecting them necessarily to go into that deep dive, right, how that actually works and how all that happens. When I'm in a client call with my large company, then I will go ask them how this will work, right? Because I do want to know, especially if I'm going to implement it at certain protected information. How is this going to prevent a certain user from going rogue? How is this going to prevent a user from changing the LLM to do something that can be very dangerous for us as a corporation or to our customers or to any of our stakeholders, right? There's a lot of things at play here, and I get it. They have to make these kind of articles that people click on, and I am contributing to the issue as well because I clicked on the article and I read it, but I am spreading it right here on YouTube at least so that you guys have an idea of what kind of article this is. We did read through it word by word, so you understand that there is a lot of biases here, and I have my own biases as well. I'm called Palantir Research for a reason, right? But yeah, I just want to know your thoughts below. Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.